let's get started then. From Team West Coast, representing Team West Coast, we've got Benson Quach, who is a writer, producer, and general badass mofo.
No, that's it.
Wait,
what do you
did
do?
we get that wrong?
Yes.
I'm the Wong Fu producer and assistant director.
All right. Thank you, Benson.
The last part's partly true.
Okay. Apologies. Chris is also a writer and producer. Chris Dinh represents Team Middle America. And then on the left there, we've got Chantal Thuy, who represents Team East Coast. She is an actor and artist. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves really quickly? Tell us a little about what you have going on and a bit about why this topic is important to you.
West Coast, Best Coast. Once again, my name is Benson. I work with Wong Fu Productions. We're currently about to release like a new web series pretty soon, but in general, that's what I've been up to. But I've been pretty involved with like the Asian American community in general for like a good portion of my life. So I think it's just really important for, to be involved and to, share with others and be a part of America, because that's where we are and that's where we live. And, it makes it feel more like home, I guess, when you participate.
Hey, my name is Chris, and I am representing Team Middle America. Right. I'm here because I heard there are points. I heard there are points, yes. And I just want all the points, and that's why I'm here. No, but I think I have not always been great about getting civically involved, and I this part of the hope was getting involved in this project will kind of get me a little more involved and in touch and just more like engaged in general. And it's created a couple of conversations with my parents that have been really interesting, and I'm always about getting to know my parents a little better, so it's good.
And hi, I'm Chantal Thuy. I'm representing Team East Coast. I'm originally from Montreal, so Canadian, but I've been living out here for a number of years. And I'm currently on a TV series called Black Lightning. We just had our last our season finale yesterday. I got involved because a dear friend of mine, first of all, reached out and asked if I would be interested, and I said yes, because I think the changing landscape of our political arena in the last couple of years has really shown how it impacts all of us, and how important voting is, and how important having these discussions, not just with our friends, but with our family is. And like Chris said, it also is an opportunity to learn more about everything for myself as well. And I don't see where everyone is, but hi guys.
Yeah, is anyone else there?
Currently, we've got 6 people watching, not including us. Everyone who's watching, feel free to ask any questions down in that Q&A box down at the bottom there. Why don't we start off with a quick and easy question of, can you guys tell us about an experience where you had a difficult conversation about politics or voting with a family member or a close friend?
Well, we were kind of talking about that yesterday.
We were, yeah. We've had a difficult conversation
with each other.
Wait, hold on.
My
A
time.
difficult one?
I thought Benson's story was really interesting.
I guess
In
I
that
could
perspective.
start. I feel like I learned a lot about like, because I'm Chinese Vietnamese, so most of my family is originally from China, then came to Vietnam for 1 or 2 generations, and then they came to the United States. But to actually, I'll touch on that later. But I remember like in high school when I was kind of first learning about like politics, and it was just taking AP Gov at that time, just learning what a Democrat and what a Republican was. You take the test and you kind of figure out where you kind of align. And I thought like a lot of this kind of brought back that memory of like, this is really interesting. It's like all the way up until this point, it felt like me and my classmates, and we were all like equals to that point. But this was like the first time I felt like that division, and it felt really odd, right? And I remember like at that time I was like, asking my parents and my mom of like, oh, like, where do you guys kind of lean politically? And then it's not where I first found out they were Republican, but it was like where I found out like there was really kind of major philosophical differences. Because like me and my brothers, we tend to be more liberal compared to our parents, like socially liberal. That's a hard word to say. But I don't know, that memory just kind of came back of like just chatting with my mom, and then it was like her asking me, oh, are you a Democrat? And I think for some reason like that separation was really strange, But it's not like I look at my parents differently. Like they have their views for a specific reason. So I guess to go into the specifics, my family left China during that time of where the communists were taking over. So I think it's like the whole capitalist versus communist thing. So they left China, and all in all, capitalists they're fiscally conservative, so they're more protective of their wealth and their family wealth, and so they left China for those reasons. And as Vietnam was adopting like communist government systems, then my family being like business owners and whatnot, like that kind of led them to leaving Vietnam and coming here, and I think just a lot of those values just kind of stuck with like, this is our money that we worked hard for, and this is our family's legacy and whatnot. And I get that. So there's a lot of history behind why like our group as Vietnamese Americans or Chinese Vietnamese have a very like specific viewpoint. But I also think it's really interesting how like our generation, the generation that came after them, it tends to be more liberal, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah. Chris, any difficult conversations with your parents?
I haven't had difficult conversations with my parents, but I have. Do you have one? Do you want to go first?
Well, to be honest, for me, I was speaking to my mom about this. She was like, "Mom, you go vote, right?" Because I kind of take it for granted that they do, because that's what they've been doing since I've, lived in the house as a teenager. And she told me, "Yeah, of course, it's her civil duty to go vote." She's like, "How could we not? It's really important to put someone in office that has the same values as us." I'm like, "Okay," and I'm like, "Mom, just to double check, you are a liberal, right?" She's like, "Yes." So I think, in terms of like conflicts within, speaking in politics, there has been no conflicts. In other areas, yes. But, just talking about this whole topic of how difficult it is to have conversations with our parents about politics, I felt very fortunate that there is low conflict in that area. At least there is one area with low conflict.
Do you speak to them in Vietnamese?
What, just in general?
The politics conversation?
No, my words are very, my Vietnamese is limited in terms of political words, vocabulary. So I speak to them in French.
Oh, cool. The difficult part for me is probably just speaking about anything. Yeah, like because it's in Vietnamese, and so you know, I know that I'm barely scratching the surface, and I use Google Translate when I talk often because I mean, they both speak English, but
We're limited.
it's like, you know, yeah, sometimes I just need to get the right, even just to say like, Mom, do you, how important was politics when you were growing up? And I was like, Mẹ, mẹ có hay nghĩ tới politics? And then she's like, well, you know, politics, like, and I'd be like, you know, like, and then I looked it up, and it's, I already forgot. I already forgot. So anyways, so I'll be like politics, and you know, I'm like, you know, like the governor, the president, and so the that's pretty difficult. Is just to even express. And so when I ask her a question, that's one thing, and then she replies to me, and then I'll like try to dig deeper, but it's like it's so limiting. It's so limiting to. And although they speak English, it's like not like it would be any easier on them if I switched to English. You know, so that's always been difficult. So that would be a difficult thing for me.
You guys want me to read the question that came in?
Oh yeah.
Okay. In Vietnamese culture, family is really important. How do you balance fighting for progressive causes, social justice, simply your beliefs, while respecting family members who support the complete opposite beliefs, especially when their beliefs are borderline racist, bigoted, offensive? Is family more important than morals?
Well, I was doing some research on that. I was thinking about that from that angle, and what a lot of articles on Google say.
What'd you say? Like
Just trying to sound smart. No, I'm kidding. What a lot of psychologists would recommend on Google is to have the frank conversation. But there's one article that I read which I loved. It was like, try and talk about politics the way you talk about steak. Different people prepare steaks in different ways. So it's not about some sort of direct confrontation, but it's just about laying a groundwork for conversation, and conversation means talking and listening. And it's incredibly hard to do, whether with your family or friends, when two people are from opposing points of views politically. So I think the idea is to even just lay the groundwork of hearing what, you know, your parent or your family has to say and to think. Like, which is what I really appreciate Benson's story is like, someone may come from, you know, be a Republican, but there's a reason why.
Yeah.
And to at least try and understand is a way for them to at least begin the conversation.
I think that's a really interesting question too, because like the United States has had like a huge like head start in terms of like all these different cultures coming together and mixing together. So then like we've had like a few generations to kind of start working through this whole racism thing, right? But then like our families are just one generation away from being in homogenous countries, right? Where everybody's the same race. And it really is just, you look out for your family, look out for who you know. And I think that can apply here. So like when a lot of us, like we have close friends that we consider close enough that are our family. And I would hope that, you know, my parents and my other family members would feel the same way. Like if my best friend was gay or a different minority, I would hope that they would treat them the same way they would treat, you know, my brothers, my cousins, whatever, because, you know, I consider that person a part of my family. So if, you know, I think as that kind of happens, you know, obviously when there's somebody you don't know, it's a different story. Like, you know, I don't know really where I'm going with that, but I think, yeah, does that kind of make sense, right? Like if you consider somebody part of your family, whether it's a friend or, I would hope that my parents, my grandparents, whatever, would put like old racism, old prejudices aside for that.
And I have like a family member who's Republican, and when we talk about politics, like it's sort of, you know, you kind of do a dance where, you know, you have different ideas, but you can still talk about it in a way that's respectful and that's bringing your point across. And so, you know, we're able to like agree that Trump is wacko, even though, you know, anyway.
Yeah.
But you know, there's ways that we can speak and still have like mutual respect. It's not about like, I personally don't think that you can change someone's mind overnight. You know, if a person has certain ideas for a reason, but it's like soft power, you know, it's like a continued dialogue and exposing them to your worldview.
Yeah, I'll just, last thing about that is I feel like that question, I think I have known people who go home and they get ready for a fight. And I feel like if you're gonna go in with the mindset that you're gonna either change their minds or they're not gonna be you're not gonna talk to them anymore, I think that might make those conversations hard. But for me, I disagree with so many things that my parents, but I'm always just trying to figure out where that came from. And that's probably a more productive, at least like grounds for conversation, idea exchange, rather than kind of, so I would just kind of be like, yeah, I would ask myself if I were in those shoes, like, what's my agenda here going into this? Did I already draw a line in the sand? Am I like getting ready to basically say goodbye to this family member if they don't change and agree with me? Or am I trying to understand them more? Because the thing is, once you really kind of get to know someone, it's really hard for us to really, really, truly understand where the world our parents came from. Like, literally, you can't even imagine it. Like, we live in such a great society and a great time. I mean, so it's more like I would go about it like just asking questions and trying to understand what life must have been like for them to see the world in this way, because there's a reason they're not, you know, they didn't wake up and go, I'm going to be a bigot today. Like, the ideas that they hold on, they come from somewhere. And the shit that our generation before went through, like, I gotta say, it was straight up hell. So, I mean, I would just kind of ask questions and try to understand first before anything else. That's my.
Did you guys see the follow-up question?
Is that on Facebook or?
Yeah, well, it's to follow up with the question, do you think it's ever okay to end your relationship with the family member with differences in beliefs? You kind of touched on that, Chris.
Well, I think for me, just in terms of like, you know, sure, fine, we agree in the political arena, but there's other things that we didn't agree on. Like, for instance, like, you know, they didn't want me to be an artist. They wanted me to be in law or medicine, and I rebelled. And so for many years, we had a very strained relationship. I like moved out the house, you know, and then years later, they, you know, kind of came to the acceptance of my path. And I think in terms, it could be for another person, if it's differences politically or ideology, if it's that strained, yeah, there may be a period of separation, but I think ultimately it's like walking the line of your own integrity and what you believe in and what it means, what is your belief in what your integrity is versus also, you know, maintaining a relationship with your parents. And sometimes it may falter, it will go one way or another, but trying to find that balance if possible would be the best.
It's hard, right?
And it's different. It's, you know, you can't just say, you have to do it this one way, like reject your parents or like just accept all their beliefs. I think it's a very gray area, and not a single person will have the same path of how they'll deal with their differences with their parents. It's a very personal experience, but holding true to your integrity, I think, is important.
I don't think I've ever been in a situation where I've been like so like either like argumentative with like even another person, right? I think to get to that point is such an extreme, like to cut somebody out of your life, whatever, or to even just like disown a family member. I don't really know. I can't like imagine it. Like to me, I feel like there's got to be some way for there to be a commonality, because I think a lot of times, especially like in today's age, you know, what the media is doing, what it's all just trying to divide everybody and you know, point at everybody's differences. But in the end, you're still blood, and there's still things you have in common. You know, like you might like the same food, right? Like there's got to be something that's keeping you guys together, and I think like focusing on that might be a better solution than focusing on the differences, right?
I'm in the same boat. I haven't been in that. There is an uncle who comes around who makes very racist jokes, and what we've learned to do, all the cousins, all the youngins, is like every time he cracks a joke like that, everyone just like, the cousins will just shake our heads, and everyone will say in one form or another, racist, that's racist, and
Call it out.
yeah, call it out, and it never gets like testy, but it's always like, you know,
It gets called out.
yeah, it's like, uncle, you know, I'm not gonna say his name, but it's yeah, it's pretty racist, and so I figured, you know, if he hears it enough, I mean, it's been a couple of decades, but it must get in there somewhere, yeah, somehow. But every situation is different. I'm not the right person to ask. That's a pretty big life changing decision. So I would probably talk to your family members if it's really kind of coming to that point, or just yell out racist.
Actually, to that point, I've had personal experience with this, but so I have an uncle who does have a lot of racist views, and I've been afraid of like him passing those views and beliefs upon my cousins or his kids. Should we intervene, or if we should, how do we intervene to prevent our cousins from, I don't know, becoming racist themselves?
I think I understand that through the point of view of any kind of like other trauma that a parent can inflict onto their children, and you and us as like an outsider family member viewing in, we can't save them. Like we can't become their parent to show them how to that another point of view. But I think what we can do is support them as individuals and spend time with them and nurture them as best as you can as a cousin, uncle, brother, whatever it is, like as a member of the family, through your presence. And as they grow up, they're going to remember that a person's presence and how they carry themselves and who they are, their own integrity, it makes an impact on people in the long term.
I think it's always hard, like kind of stepping in when parenting or raising somebody is involved. But I think like the most simple solution is just to be that role model that they can look towards. You can't really force any views on them, but like just you can share your own experiences with them, navigating through your own life if you were with like a younger sibling.
Thankfully, we all rebel against our parents, so I wouldn't worry about that sticking for very long. Like the racist uncle I was talking about, I like all of his daughters, like totally super cool, chill. They date outside. They date non-Asian guys, and so they're just like very cool, well-adjusted, great. And I don't think he's actually that. He's just like these jokes of just like, you know.
He might see that as a way for him to connect to you guys in some way. I don't know.
Probably.
Wait, but to clarify, Chris, your cousins aren't cool because they date non-Asian guys, right? That's
No,
not what
because
you meant.
they're not racist.
They're not. Yeah. So they're open-minded, and they, you know.
They're cool because they're not racist.
Yeah. They, you know, and you know, like all of us, they just rebelled against anything. I mean,
They found their own voices.
yeah, they found their own voices.
You guys ready for the next?
I'd be worried about the friend, like who the friend group is. Actually, has more influence on your worldview than your parents, because we all reject our parents, you know, at some point.
Because I was gonna say, like, if you do have like a younger cousin or a niece, nephew, and you start to see them go towards that path of like rebellion, I think being a resource for them to like reach out to you, I think it is really important too. Because I think that worries me, because I do have like younger cousins, and that like, you know, all it takes is that like that bad friend, you know, who teaches them something wrong.
The Friends webinar will be the next one.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a couple of other questions that came in. The first one, does your Vietnamese heritage and culture affect how you view the world at all, whether socially, politically, or elsewhere?
I think it definitely does. I think I always look at things as like, there's a reason why things are the way they are, and like I said, like my family comes from a very like specific situation, being Chinese and being Chinese in Vietnam, and then being Chinese Vietnamese in the United States. It's like there's a reason behind why they have these certain views, why, you know, different ethnic groups view us too. So I think like that does affect my place, and I think you know, also being in a position where I have a voice and that I can speak out about it, you know, whereas like some youth out there might not have that opportunity, might not have those people that they can look up to, or they don't know where to find that information. You know, like I was lucky to take a lot of like Asian American studies classes, but there's probably like a Chinese American kid that doesn't have that opportunity and doesn't really know, and happens to stumble upon a YouTube video or something. And that's just kind of like how I kind of look at my position in this. So.
Yeah, I'm still kind of discovering how it affects. I'm still in process. So, but for sure, I know it has a huge impact, and I'm always kind of learning something new about where certain viewpoints that I hold are coming from all the time.
Yeah, and I think for me, being a Vietnamese Montrealer, which is like a whole other identity crisis of like being born in a French Canadian province, I think I really see the two identities. Vietnamese is super important. The importance, the values of like family, of hard work, and education, and also the flip side, which is like, you know, I think kind of being a first generation born, you kind of feel like you don't quite belong sometimes.
On either side, right?
Yeah, on either side. So you're really striving to find your own identity, whether through, you know, your work or your community. Yeah.
Next question. What are your thoughts on the current immigration debate in the U.S.? Have you talked to your parents about it?
Well, maybe you guys. We're Canadian, so we accept a lot of.
See, I think that it's tricky because I think before the current immigration crisis, we were probably the most recent immigration crisis. And it's interesting to see because, yeah, as Vietnamese Americans, we came for a very specific reason because of the Vietnam War and coming in as refugees. And I think there's a disconnect between I guess the current Latin American movement or Latin America, those immigrants coming over. I think they just see it as they're trying to get a free ride or and whatnot. But if you just kind of change your lens a little bit, in a sense they are refugees as well. How different are they from our parents and grandparents that came here? So that's the way I look at it personally. But I can see why, because there are people that do come and do take advantage of the system, and that's not cool. Because it's taking an opportunity from somebody that we potentially care about, or from ourselves too. So I can see that side, but I think for me it's I can see why they're trying to get here, and I have friends who are dreamers as well, and that situation is totally crazy, and it's difficult. It's difficult to because there's arguments for both sides, and it's always tough.
Yeah, that's a really hard one. I haven't had that conversation yet, but I'll let you know how it goes. What's up, Celia?
Do you know Celia?
We don't know each other. I'm just reading our text messages.
Can I jump in and remind our attendees that if you guys do want to ask questions, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of Zoom for those on Facebook. And I know there's quite a few of you guys out there. If you do want to ask questions, go ahead and toss them into the Facebook comments or hop here onto Zoom here and join us for these conversations. If you want, you can even be unmuted and ask these questions live. But the next question here is, what was the moment or thing that made you become more civically engaged or civically minded?
I don't know if it was a moment for me, but I think for sure going to college and being around, getting out of my town and going to college and being around people who were constantly talking about it, reminding you that you don't know enough about certain topics or issues, and I guess the constant and gradual social expectations of my friends. Yeah, because it didn't come from my family or my parents at all. Yeah, although I did talk to my it's a tangent. I was gonna go off on a tangent and stop myself.
Is it relevant?
Well, so my mom said that my grandpa ran for he was involved in local politics, either he had
in Vietnam.
Yeah, he had run for office, and she said that they would go and put flyers out, and they were really engaged for their father to get elected. But she said after he lost, they were never pressured to stay engaged, and I never got that from my mom's side. I never got it from my dad's side. It was going to college and being around it was what pushed me in that direction. And I'll be honest, I have so much to learn and so much more to do. So it's a constant, effort journey thing.
I think in high school I didn't care at all for the most part. I started caring because I was taking government classes, and then I think in college, as I took a lot more Asian American studies classes specifically, and learning about the war and how lucky I really am to just be alive and be here and be in this country. It's kind of the least you can do as an American to vote and because you can sit here and feel like an outsider, or you can do the one thing that makes you actually feel included, because we could be in a different country that the vote really doesn't matter. As that, it took a while for that to click, but it does make me feel good every time I go, get that sticker. I like stickers. I think everybody likes stickers.
Do we lose our moderator?
I don't know.
No, I'm still here. Sorry. Apparently the video was focused on me, so I decided to stop my video so they can watch you guys instead. We do have another question.
Ourselves.
We have a question from Tumai. Tumai, did you want to ask this question yourself? Fook, are you able to unmute her? For the purpose of the question.
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I wanted to ask, have you or how have you guys talked about the issue of intersectionality with your family members? Like, how are you able to communicate things such as the need to stand with other certain marginalized communities, whether that be your like race or religion or sexual orientation, like while we are a part of our own minority community?
I haven't had that conversation. I'll be honest, I've just been really working on improving my relationship with my parents, first and foremost, and that's been a thing in itself. And I feel like I still am. That's still a constant. It's still a constant. I guess I'm still on that road, and but when you ask that, I don't even. What's crazy is I can't even imagine how I would. I can't even imagine how I would ask that. Do you guys even know how you would ask that? I don't even know how I would enter that conversation.
I guess, yeah, I think it maybe depends on.
Can I ask her if she has had that conversation?
Or like for you on like Black Lightning, for example, you play a gay character. Like, is that something that you came up with your parents or other?
Well, I think for me, I just remember through college and I have friends of all kinds, and it was never a conversation, but they never asked questions like, oh, she's dating a girl. It was never it never became a topic of interest. And then I think when I did this show, I think my mom's like, so you're okay kissing a girl? I'm like, yeah. She's like, okay. So I guess at this point in my life, I'm not looking for their approval, only because I feel like I'm living my life.
Be a little louder.
Oh. I think at this point in my life, I'm not looking for their approval. So I kind of just, I live my life the way I am. I have the friends I have. I have, the variety of experiences I have, and they kind of just accept it at this point.
Yeah.
For better or for worse, they accept it, and they trust my judgment.
I think.
And maybe that makes me very lucky as well, to have parents who are at this point accepting of different races, sexual orientation, or.
I think like we were saying before about being role models for the youth that are younger than us. I think it also works kind of both ways, where we can be the example for our parents, to be like, hey, I'm working with this organization, or I'm doing this, because in college I was in the Filipino club, and I'm not Filipino, but just as an example of I think showing them that it's real to be friends with an LGBTQ cute person. Like, I remember I went to a gay wedding for these two friends that I've known and my family's known for quite a long time. Like my parents know their parents and whatnot, and for some reason it was like it was strange to them. But I think showing them like it's a real example of like, hey, these are people, these are real human beings, and these are our friends, and they care about us, and we care about them. I think it just like it has to start small. You can't just be like, hey, mom, dad, let's go to Pride, and get a rainbow flag. But like it just starts with like, hey, this is my friend, this is our neighbor.
And I think that is what it is that I see a lot in also my friends and everything, that we help our parents gain more open-mindedness and acceptance.
Sorry, Chris, I interrupted you, but did you want to ask Maya a question? Sorry.
I think my question was if she has had that conversation or approached. I don't know if she can respond, but
Yeah. Can you hear me?
yeah.
Yeah, I would say that coming from the perspective of more so maybe not how to initiate that conversation, but how to bring it up when we see that come up. Like maybe we hear someone make a comment around like gay people or Black people, and wonder like, well, if we actually care about, say, Black Lives Matter, like how can I appropriately respond how I feel? Like hearing this is like what my dad or my mom or my aunt or uncle has like said when like the certain topic like comes about, like how do we bring that up? Because we do support our community, but we're also aware of other communities. And I think you did touch on like how it comes up in little ways, like maybe not, hey, here's this entire issue I want to bring up about the Muslim community and what they're like dealing with, but like when we see that because our neighbor or like our coworker is affected by these issues, to let them know like I also care about this person because they're my friend and they're another human being, like communicating that so our parents understand the other issues.
Well, our family, we're really big on sharing like links, like newspaper clippings or articles that we find interesting. And sometimes that's the way we start dialogue. And also I think it comes back to like just having a conversation with them versus like trying to change their mind. It sort of helps to just not, for you to not keep things. I think sometimes we have a tendency to keep things and instead of talking about it because we avoid conflict. Oh, we were talking about this yesterday. How I think as maybe Vietnamese or Asian American, we tend to avoid conflict instead of having just the conversations. You guys?
I'm wondering. I was just kind of thinking as we were talking about. I was wondering if it's like if I would feel hesitant to actually have that conversation, because I'm kind of like I'm trying to recall right now. I could feel like I've had a few, maybe one or two of those. I'm not, but what's hard is the language to even get into it. I wonder how much of it is like I don't know how to say like even the phrase of like I don't even know how to say hey, so mom and dad, what do you think about? I don't even feel comfortable sometimes like
Sparking it out of the blue.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder how much of it is language or like a dynamic. I don't know where it comes from. So I'm gonna probably be thinking about that for like months.
I think too. It's also like what's like having a level playing field too. Of like I had the benefit of going K through 12. Learning about American history, learning about let's say slavery, for example, in the Black community, and how racism has affected them. Like my parents might just simply not know specific situations, Emmett Till, whatever. Like they might not just know about those things. So before I get into like a conversation with that, it's like, hey, let's just catch you guys up first. Making sure that we're talking about the same thing, because might not even be talking about the same thing. They might be looking at, Black history since, the 80s, right? Whereas we have the benefit of knowing the entire history of Blacks in America. I think that's a big thing too, just knowing and having that context.
Thanks, guys. We have a question from Facebook, actually. What advice would you give to someone who, or what was your experience in speaking to your parents about mental health, if you've had that conversation? And what would you do differently?
Like our own personal, or just in
Yeah, I guess if you had any experience speaking to your parents about mental health, or in general, or in personal life.
I think for me, like I've gone to 2007 when I went, needed to speak to a therapist, and that was something actually that when I brought it up to my mom and my sister, it was the first time we I opened up that much to them about my personal issues or my personal state of being emotionally, and they helped me find someone to speak to when I was in New York at the time, and maybe since then she checks in on me. She's like, how are you doing? But now there's a level of communication that's been maintained since. And I think it's a hard conversation to have with just anybody. I think in terms of mental health, whatever you're going through, it's just, you're never in a place where you want to reach out. You're in a place of isolation. And it's hard to find, a connection that feels safe. But I think ultimately our parents love us and our family love us, and it actually ends up being a safe place for connection. And it's a risk you take by opening up, but
I've had that's an easier topic for me to talk to my parents about than politics, for sure. Yeah, because my mom's always warning me and my brother, because she says there's a little bit crazy on your dad's side, don't, if you're feeling stressed or whatever, quit the job or don't push yourself too hard, because she says that there's a little bit of schizophrenia on my dad's side, and so she's always really aware of it, and it comes from a place of obviously she doesn't want anything harmful to happen to us, and then my dad has admitted to me once that he was feeling, I think it was they don't have the language for it, and I don't have the Vietnamese words for it, but the more they read it, English articles, my dad many years ago did say I think I'm depressed, and so that was helpful in being comfortable talking about that. So it's something that maybe I have an easier time talking about.
well, it's great. Just that your mom can give you a history, because I think our family, if there's any kind of history of depression or whatever, no one from that generation goes to see a therapist. It's not they don't seek help for mental problems the way we do. So that's also a conversation that I feel the younger generation usually instigates and maintains with the parents.
There's also an added layer in terms of, with all you guys having refugee parents' background, that trauma is also
yeah, apparently
part of it.
trauma is passed down from generation through your grandparents to your parents to you. So we inherit everything from our grandparents' generation downwards. So yeah, the more it affects us indirectly.
I think I get kind of lucky because I'm the youngest of three, so I get to see a lot of examples from my older brothers when they go through situations, and my mom's really superstitious in terms of Buddhism and the zodiac signs and stuff. So she always tells us if my older brother is struggling, oh, he's a rabbit, this year rabbits are going through a certain thing, but he'll overcome, and in the end it's she's just saying it'll get better, and it's her way of reassuring us, telling us that it might be hard right now, but you're going through this to be stronger for me. And I think that's like a good reminder for us. So that's just her way of explaining that in her language.
Thanks, guys. Can you guys tell us about your current projects and any of the social impacts that you guys hope that they'll have on the world?
Social impact. I just hope to be able to work on honest stories, and I don't go into it thinking about being super conscious about. I'm just trying to be like authentic and honest as possible, or try to. And I hope that has some kind of a ripple effect. So that's kind of been my, I guess, my outlook on it.
You should mention Miss Purple. You had big news today.
As an example, like Miss Purple, we didn't think about it.
You should say what it is for people.
So Miss Purple is a film that I co-wrote with Justin Chan, and we premiered it at Sundance, and it was I think received well. Not that that's
it was received well.
Right, but I think when there's like a certain reaction that I think, and I don't know how to put it into words, but I think that, I mean, it felt important to me. It felt like really deep and important, and it felt like something that just was like really, really deep inside of me that was just trying for many years to bubble up, and I had the opportunity to work with Justin and that whole team to like bring that story to life. And when it comes from a place like that, I feel like that's the most I can do, because I'm still, but anyways, that's
What you should say a little bit about what the film's about, and it's coming out too, right?
Right, yeah, and the film is it is a story about a brother and sister, Korean American, who are trying to figure out what's next after they're coming back together in their father's last days, and the future is very daunting, and they're trying to figure out what is next for them, and it's stuff that I think I've dealt with all of my life, and still kind of is always on my mind, and I'm just kind of, I don't even know what it is exactly, but it's just like one of those things that just felt like needed, like it was like super, super important to me. And I think I was being able to, work on that is the most I could hope for, and hopefully it's something that people, feel like speaks to them, and maybe
I went to watch it.
Yeah, well,
Coming out in theaters.
in theaters.
Woo! Right.
Yes.
Yes. It was just announced today.
It's just announced
Today.
Are you allowed to say? Oh, I haven't seen the announcement.
Yeah. Keep talking all over.
Are we the first ones to hear it?
I think it came out.
Yeah, it came out today. I'll look it up. You guys, continue.
What we're promoting?
What you're working on or recently working on, and if there's a social impact.
Oh, well, yeah, for me with Black Lightning, I feel like I'm connecting and I'm having dialogues with a lot of these young girls who are who watch the show, and to be able to have that kind of interaction is something that like I love, because I just feel like when growing up as a Vietnamese kid in Montreal, like not that much representation, and you don't really see yourself in the media, and you don't really feel like you have a voice in some ways, because the voices you see on television aren't yours. So just being able to have like a personal dialogue with some of these girls have been impactful for me and for them.
Just seeing you on screen that's the impact. I imagine for a lot of young Asian Americans, just to see you as a strong woman that's the impact, right?
Yeah.
Like just being able to
And
see
also like when they send me messages and they're like, you know, I've been going through this, but you know, having this help me through the day, and then I can, you know, send them back the love. Like, it's a lovely, lovely thing.
I think with Wong Fu, we're still touring and doing college events with our web series Yappy that we released last year. And I think a big thing with Yappy is we're not trying to tell people to quit their jobs and pursue entertainment or pursue this industry. I think it's more so that it's a really interesting time to be Asian American right now because of everything that's happened in the last year or two, like with Fresh Off the Boat and Crazy Rich Asians. And I think to be heard, you got to start speaking up first. And I think we're in a position where we're starting to speak up and we're starting to get heard. And I think our mission is just to keep that momentum going and to encourage people to, remind people that we do have a place in society, we do have a place, and it's worth being heard.
Thank you so much, guys. We're nearing the hour mark, and we're probably going to wrap it up soon. But the webinar is not the end of everything. Jenny is our 2020 project director. And Jenny, do you want to talk about what we have going on after this webinar real quick?
Yeah, I can do that. Thanks everyone for hopping on and watching. So the webinar is just the beginning of the campaign. So now we are asking everyone to grab your mom, your dad, your mailman, your best friend, your roommate to go and register to vote. If you can do that and register at least one person, that'd be awesome. If you go to our website, which is unapsa.org/2020 project, you can get points for doing this for your team. All you gotta do is just input your name, the person who you referred, and then which team you're on. So we're gonna be updating the website here pretty soon for points to see who is currently in the lead. It is pretty neck and neck actually. So I'm obviously rooting for Team Middle America since I'm in Texas, but you know, just gonna plug that in there. Yeah, so thank you so much, Chantal, Chris, and Benson for being our panelists for this webinar. We can't thank you enough. And yeah, I'm gonna pass it off to Folk to end the webinar, and that's all we have, guys. Thanks.